Welcome, everybody. This is Rose Dedan of Wild Reiki and Shamanic Healing, and welcome to my first ever live Facebook broadcast. And I have no idea if I'm doing this correctly, so we will make it through this. Basically, I'm a quiet, somewhat shy person who generally prefers being heard, but not necessarily seen. But my animal teachers and guides and my own desire and calling as a Reiki shamanic healer and animal communicator have pushed me into this new platform, new to me anyways, to offer what I can do to assist the people and the animals with short daily broadcasts of tips, inspiration, and stories. It's challenging times right now. I don't think that anybody would not agree with that. Most of us are spending more time now than ever before at home, trying to cope with all the conflicting information that's coming our way, different ways of coping, and collectively, our emotions are all over the map. We've just been joined by Night Sky. And as individuals, how we feel has an impact on our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being and balance. And when we're out of balance and ungrounded, that affects others around us, most especially our animal companions and children, both of whom are both so much more open energy. So as I teach my students in the Reiki classes and shamanic bone, stones, feathers, and fur, our bodies shed hucha, which is a Peruvian Quechua word for heavy energy. And that hucha is shed into our energy fields where it kind of settles like dust. Think Pigpen from Charles Schulz's Peanuts, that roiling dust cloud around you. And that heavy energy settles in our energy fields, our living spaces, the energy fields of others, and hucha is dense and sticky, and it collects more quickly than dust too. And when it starts to build up in our living or working spaces, for most of us, I think that's about the same thing right now, we end up kind of marinating in it, which can send us more deeply into our heavy feelings of anxiety, fear, anger, etc. And hucha also has a tendency to magnetically attract more heavy energy, which feeds its growth. And if that heavy energy is around long enough, it starts to move into the weaker areas of our bodies, gradually creating blockages in the flow of chi or ki. And of course, that can create definite physical health issues when it happens long enough over time. So, long story short, heavy energy needs to be cleared on a regular basis. And during challenging times like these right now, I would say that regular basis is daily. And that can be very helpful to you, your family, and your animal companions. So in shamanism, of course I should probably back up for those of you who might not know me, I'm trained in Peruvian shamanism, high Andes. I'm a mesa carrier in that tradition. But shamanism is a worldwide practice. Every country has its own indigenous people with practices that are specific to their locations. And all of those indigenous people share basic truths, and that is that everything has a spirit. The animals, the stone people, the plant people, tree people, and so on. So the plant people are considered our allies in shamanism. And this is definitely a time when we can, we all need to call upon them to help support us. Smudging, which some of you might be familiar with, is basically calling upon the spirit of that particular plant ally to assist you in clearing heavy energy. And, you know, smudging does traditionally, usually involve lighting some type of dried plant material. Now, the plant in question for indigenous people is native to that particular area or region. For example, here in the Pacific Northwest, cedar, I have some here. Cedar is the sacred plant. This is a cedar bundle, cedar smudge. And cedar trees are native to the Pacific Northwest, and the tribes here honor them. They are a very important part of their culture. For everyone else, you might be more familiar with white sage, which somewhat grows in the Midwest and down into warmer sections of the country. As I said, there are many different types. Let's see, I have here is a white sage bundle. This is actually a mini sage. Some of you might be used to seeing something that's more like this, which is a smudge stick. Again, this is cedar, not sage, but from Peru, their Palo Santo wood is considered sacred. And I wish we had smell-o-vision on this, because Palo smells basically good enough to eat. I mean, it's just very aromatic, very wonderful. For those of you whose family members may not appreciate sage, Palo Santo wood can be an alternative. I've yet to meet someone who didn't like it. So far, I haven't met anybody who's had issues with the smoke from it. So it's an option. And I just want to say, as we're talking about this, it's good to find ethically sourced Palo Santo wood. I'll talk a little bit later about sources for some of you. But ethically sourced Palo Santo wood, it falls, when the branch is old, it falls to the ground. That is what is gathered. They do not actually harvest limbs off of the trees. And of course, that makes it a little more valuable. And so it's very important to support people who sell ethically sourced Palo Santo wood so that the trees are not decimated. In different countries, there's many different kinds. For Asian countries, there are types of, and India, there are types of incenses that could be used in place of, but it's not necessarily as easily obtained here. Now, what do you do if you live somewhere or have to use smudging somewhere where it's not safe, where you can't have smoke and fire, like a hospital or a kennel or a stable? So there are other options. And also, for those of you who might, not be comfortable with the smoke, have asthma, other issues, or perhaps family members who just can't handle it, there are sprays or mists that can be used. So this is a sage spray that has white sage, cedar, and rosemary. And I think I can put links in this afterwards, but I will give some sources for folks. I will say that the sprays, for obvious reasons, are not as economical as sage and other forms. They last a lot longer, but they're a really great alternative when you can't use anything else. One of the people I know personally that makes something for situations like that is Vicki Draper of Vermeer, and she makes a clear mist, and so that can be used and fits in your pocket. I've known nurses who kind of carry it around within their hospitals, and sometimes use it when they're taking a potty break, because they don't actually get a lot of free time, especially right now. So it's good to help keep your energy field clear as much as possible when you're out, if you happen to be out, but most especially at home, because as I said, we shed heavy energy, especially with all of the news that we're being bombarded with and the decisions that we're having to make. So, how to smudge? First, I'm going to just focus for the purpose of this because it's most easily obtained on white sage. And this is a little tip that I kind of worked out. As you can see, the sage bundle is wrapped with string. And what I've found is that any sage can be difficult to get lit. And once it's lit, it can be hard to extinguish. So when I want to do daily smudging, scissors, I will, for these mini sage bundles, I will cut the string and unwrap it. Save that little piece. And take it apart. So I take off one frond. And this is ever so much easier to light and extinguish. So I like, oh, I did have something I forgot to bring over here. I'll be right back. And also forgot the feather, but that's okay. So this is an abalone shell. This is a large size. They do come in smaller. Still working out the screen thing. You know, you can have a little shell like this, or medium size. I like to use them because they help to catch any embers as you're walking through your house. So, what I'll do is I'll hold the shell in one hand, and I've got, as you can see, I'm also holding the frond. And I'll light the frond. Oh, and by the way, guys, every shaman should have this. A little black lighter. Well-dressed shamans. This is what we need. Okay, so lighting. Having shell. Now, you can use a feather. It's a nice ritual way to do it. As I said, I don't have the feather, but you can pretend there's a feather in my hand and you're spreading smoke like this. Or you can do the maybe Capricorn efficient method that I often do, which is to just hold this in one hand, and then I begin to move. I go around the perimeter of the room, you know, over the sofa, over my chair. I think you'll see me over here as I'm smudging. I spend a lot of time here teaching, so I want to make sure it's nice and clean and clear. So I'll go around the perimeter of the room, through the house, so I just basically follow the walls. And I clear, you know, spreading smoke as I go all around different areas. Lately, I've been making a point of doing smudging at night before I go to bed. And I'm taking particular care with smudging my bed and the bedroom. Simply because at night we spend time dreaming, where we're, of course, processing a lot of things from the day. And so it helps with sleep to do that. let's see. So some animals love smudging. They're usually the energetic ones. Others kind of realize the benefits over time. I can smudge Manitou, my cat Manitou, you know, up close and personal, and he doesn't even bat an eyelash. He's just basically like, oh, she's doing it again. But if I want to smudge Night Sky, my big black cat, I can't even look at him. I have to basically just go through the room like, la 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 la, I'm clearing, you know, as I pass you by, and it's above his head. If I even glance at him, he runs because he figures I'm going to smoke him. So you don't have to smudge your animals directly. We're the ones who shed the most heavy energy. You can instead focus on smudging the areas where they spend the most time, their beds, etc., because of course their energies are impacted by our energies. And the more grounded, balanced, and centered that we are, the more grounded, balanced, and centered they can stay. And of course, when we're all in balance, then that helps to support our immune systems, which of course is very important at this time. So, how do you extinguish your burning sage? You can do as I did, which is lay it in the abalone shell and just allow it to self-extinguish. You can have a little pot with some sand, preferable to dirt. Dirt gets kind of messy, but sand works. And you can just kind of shove it down into the sand and it'll extinguish that way. One of the, I guess, most, the safest methods is to have a jar with a lid with sand in it, and you put the sage burning end down in the sand, screw on the lid, and of course it's going to self-extinguish because it's going to run out of oxygen. So, smudge often. It's a really good idea. Especially right now, you'd be surprised how much better you feel. You can open the windows and the doors if the smoke is too much, but I find with the frond method, I guess we'd give it a name, usually it's not overwhelming. I rather like it, but maybe I'm just weird. So there's other ways to clear if you can't or don't have access to any of these things, and one of them is with sound. Now, I'm no expert on sound, but I do know, because there's gongs and bells and all sorts of different methods. So I'll just talk about what I know, which is rattles, because I was trained in Peruvian shamanism, and rattles are the thing. So you can rattle to break up stuck energy and kind of twirl it like spaghetti and toss it outside. You may find if you use the rattle method that you can tell where the energy's building up because the sound is going to be different. And of course, you're going to do it rattling in your energy field. You could do this for someone else. If you happen to have two rattles, you can get fancy and zigzag them as you rattle down the person down to the feet. And so you're basically clearing the energy and bringing it down to the earth where Pachamama or Mother Earth can mulch it. Because heavy energy is mulch for her. Heavy energy is never destroyed. It's only transformed. Its opposite word in Quechua is Sami, S-A-M-I, or light energy, heavy and light. Not negative and positive. This is just the way the world works, so there's no judgment about it. There is also a way to clear energy with Reiki. I'll talk about that another time, I think maybe Monday. Some plant allies speak to us more than others. And for me, it's sage. Palo Santo, it's a nice fallback for me, but boy, if I really want to kick butt and take names, energetically speaking, I go for the sage. So tomorrow, and of course I'm already over time. I was like, yeah, what did you think you were going to do? 5 to 15 minutes Storyteller Rose? I don't think so. Well, I'm still aiming for 15 minutes. But this is the first time, so tomorrow we're going to be connecting with the stone people. And you're going to need to have a stone person with you. And I have one right here just to demonstrate. You're going to need to find one. Maybe you have stones in your house. You definitely have them in your yard or your neighborhood somewhere. And you're going to need to find a stone person that will fit in your hand. So nothing too big. See? Fits in my hand. I can close my hand over it. Fits in my pocket. The stone should be smooth. Makes it a lot easier to handle. Don't choose a crystal for the work that we're going to do. Crystal is not appropriate. I feel that it's better to connect with a stone person where you live right now than perhaps stones that you've sourced or liberated from rock stores or gem shows. But, you know, if there's a stone in your house who's like, me, except if they're a crystal, go with that. And what you're going to do is you're going to ask the stone person if they're the one that wants to work with you. So to get in the right space for that, you want to make sure that you move into your heart, because we're so head oriented. So you want to make sure that you're grounded, that you're fully in your body, so that you feel the floor beneath your feet. And kind of move your focus to here. And one way to do that is to tap in that area. Just kind of wake your heart chakra up just a little bit. And once you feel that you're like fully present, you know, ask that stone person, you know, will you work with me? You know, will you help me through these challenging times right now? I just got emotional because the stone in my hand is like, yes, of course I will. Thank you. The stone people are our oldest allies. They are the bones of the earth. At this time, the best healer and support that we have is our allies, all our relations. So for tomorrow at 11 a.m. Sunday, I'll see hopefully you here, or perhaps catch you on the replay, and we'll have an introduction to the stone people. In the meantime, smudge, smudge, smudge. Keep clearing your energy field, keep clearing your house. We're all living in close quarters, more so than we ever have, and there's a lot of emotions that are coming out, and smudging can definitely help us regain balance, perspective, keep our immune system strong. And I don't know if sage has antiviral properties, but I know that it's been scientifically proven that it has antimicrobial properties. So that also helps to keep our immune system strong. Thank you so much for all being here, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Blessings.